Welcome back to another STEM with Miss Dubois video. Today we're talking about dimensioning in Fusion. That's me, Miss Dubois, so let's begin. Before we get into dimensioning, we have to go over some basic geometry rules because you need to know and understand them. So this is a rectangle, and opposite sides in a rectangle are always equal. This is a square, and all sides in a square are equal. This is a circle, and the radius in a circle measures from the center to the outer edge of the circle. The diameter of a circle is the length of a straight line that passes through the center of it, connecting two opposite points from its edge. In Fusion, this symbol means diameter. So when you see that symbol on a dimensioning sheet, it's telling you that the circle's diameter is that length, whatever it's equaled up to. You'll see it later in the video. So the long lines with the arrows pointing to them and the number in the middle, that's a dimension line. That number tells you how long that line or side of the shape is. So the first thing that you actually want to do is, if you're in the United States, you're going to want to change your units from metric to the empirical system, which is inches and feet. So you're going to go to document settings. You're going to click units, and you're going to see that there's like the thing that says change active units. You're going to click on that, right? Give it a second. There you go. Now mine are already set in inches because I've done this before, but I changed mine from meters to whatever. You're going to click inches, and then you're going to click set as default. And that's how you set your inches or change your units in Fusion. In the United States, we use the empirical system. Other countries use the metric system. Just use whatever works for your country. So now let's go over how to make something that is dimensioned in Fusion, right? And there's a couple of ways of doing this. Everyone kind of has their own approach. My approach is to go back and forth between the dimensioned drawing and Fusion, and I ask myself, how do I make this the easiest way possible? And for me, it tends to be where I find the largest base shape, and then I go on from there. So you're going to see me do that in this next clip. So you're going to see me make my sketch on the XY axis, which is the red line and blue line axes, right? And on that, you're going to see me go back and forth between the dimension drawing and see, okay, what are the dimensions for that axis, right? So I'm going to create a shape or create a sketch, click create a rectangle, right? And now you see me looking for it, right? It's 50 by 100. So I'm going to make my horizontal axis or my horizontal value 50 and my up and down value 100. My vertical value 100. Since I'm done with my sketch, I'm going to click finish sketch, and then I'm going to click that home value so I'm in that 3 point of view perspective basically. And now I'm going to click extrude, but I don't know how high to extrude it, right? So this is where I actually go back to my drawing and I figure out, how do I want to approach this, right? I can either go 50 or 25. I decide to go 25 because for me, extruding up is a lot easier than extruding down and cutting. I don't know why, that's just me. So I'm actually going to extrude 25 inches up. And you'll see what I do next with making that extra 25 inches up, because you see that it's basically two levels, right? And with that, I'm actually going to click that plane, right? And I'm going to click create a sketch. I'm going to sketch on that face, essentially. And this is where I go back to my drawing after I orient it the way I want to orient it. So you're going to see me find the perfect orientation because it needs to be a very specific way. So I see that it's 50 inches from the bottom, right? 50 inches is 50 inches, right? So all I'm going to do, and that other value is 100, right? So that's basically saying that half of this shape is 50, and half of the shape is up. So I find that center line, measure 50 by 50. It's already done for me. I'm going to click my corner, and then I'm going to click finish sketch, and then I click my home value. I measure how much higher it's up. I do some math, 50 minus 25, because it's part of the same shape. 50 minus 25 is 25. So yes, you do have to do a little bit of math, but not much. You have a calculator with you. And I'm going to click extrude, and I'm going to type in 25 inches. And there I have my finished model of this dimensioned drawing. and it looks the same, which is the goal of doing dimension drawings, right? It's to have the same exact model than what you have on paper. People with engineers or like people that are in this field space do this to make sure that their models are exactly the same. And then I save my stuff. So let's just say you didn't get this drawing from a dimension drawing. What you can do is go to design, click drawing, and you can have Fusion automatically make a dimensioned drawing for you. You follow the options that I'm doing on my screen, you click OK, and Fusion will actually automatically generate a dimensioned drawing for you. Now, it's going to make you wait a minute, and it's not going to automatically save. It's actually going to automatically save for you. When you don't do automatic, it doesn't automatically save. You're going to see that with a different thing that we do in Fusion, because there's a couple of ways to make dimensioned drawings in Fusion, and I'm going to show you the 3 major ways. So once it's done, you're going to click Open Drawing, and voila! It literally makes a perfectly dimensioned drawing. Now, I've heard that this is not the way to do it in industry, and I've heard from people that you shouldn't do this because sometimes Fusion overdimensions, which is basically saying there's dimensioning too many things. But yeah. Now, I was always told to have an isometric view, which is a 3D view of my drawing. So I do add that, but other than that, it's a really good approach to the dimension drawing, and it does it for you. So I definitely recommend this tool for simpler things. And I'm going to show you the other ways to do it that is technically more proper. So for this next one, I actually just make a whole outline sketch of it because I kind of realized that it was easier for me to do it that way than like extrude it and possibly get some things wrong. So I quite literally make a sketch has this as like a face, and then I just extrude it the 1 inch that you can see here. And now I'm just going to speed build through it because what I'm going to show, or the more important part of this that I'm going to show, is how to dimension this using a slightly different way than how I previously just showed. Please slow down the video if you really want to see me doing this, but like I said, everyone has a slightly different way of doing this. This is just another way. In the next section, I'm going to show you how to dimension this properly-ish, better. Another way of dimensioning things in Fusion. So you start out this by doing the same way if you were to do an automatic dimensioned drawing, but you go to design, you click drawing, you click from design, make sure you have manual clicked on, you click OK. And then what it's going to ask you to do is set that base view where it's basically your front view, and then it's going to have you make your top view. But if you click projected view, as you saw me click, it does it kind of for you based on how you bring it up. Now, you're going to see me edit this a little bit because I am a perfectionist and I'm okay with that. But then from that, I'm going to make another projected view, and it's going to show the right view, and then I'll have another projected view that shows my isometric view. And then what I'll do after that is I'll click auto dimension. It'll give me a list of options of how I want to auto dimension. I click the top one because that top one is the most accurate for what I want to use it for. Once again, I don't know if this is how you actually should do it, but that's just me. It's never not worked, but I have also only done super simple projects in Fusion. But you see that here, I click that. It does the dimensioning for you. In this next snippet of things, I'm actually going to show you how to dimension the drawing yourself. So pay attention to the final thing that we make in this video. So this next one, I start off in a very similar way where I basically pick the largest shape and I go from there, right? The largest shape in this case is that 3.5 by 2.5 rectangle. So I am going to go to create a sketch, make that 3.5 by 2.5 rectangle, and then what I do next is actually very unique and different, but it's incredibly helpful. What I do is I'm trying to figure out the center of my circle, and that's actually dimensioned for me, right? It is 1.5 inches in from the bottom right corner of that rectangle, and it is 1 inch up. So what I use is construction lines, right? I use the line feature. I click construction line. You see it in Fusion. And I essentially am making that construction line from that bottom right corner to 1.5 inches. And then from that line, I go 1 inch up because that's what the dimensioned drawing says. And I have the center of my circle. And all of this is in construction lines because Fusion does not extrude construction lines. And it gives me a marker as to where the center of my circle will be because that is what the diameter will run through. The diameter runs through the center of the circle. And you see me make my diameter. I actually get rid of the construction lines because Fusion does not extrude construction lines. And I see that my diameter, by using that symbol, is 1.5 inches. And boom, I have the first face of my shape. Now, I'm actually going to go back to Fusion, see on the top view that it's 1 inch thick, or has a depth of 1 inch, technically speaking. And I go back to Fusion, and I basically make, or the extrusion, I extrude it 1 inch. I double check my work, I click enter, and I have it done. Now I go to that face, where I click create a sketch, and I actually will do the same thing with the same process that I just mentioned, right? I go 3/4 inches from the top or bottom left of that face technically, and I use a construction line, same way that I did before, and I'm going 3/4 of an inch as you see right here, and then I'm actually going to go up about 1/2 inch, and you'll see that in this next little bit where I go up 1/2 inch to determine the center of my circle, because once again I'm setting that center of my circle because that diameter runs through the center of the circle. So now you're going to see me get rid of the construction line, click the circle, but I'm going to check to see how big the diameter of my circle is, and it's 1/2 inch. So I click that, I click finish sketch, and I'm done. But the weird thing is that if you don't extrude this by the smallest of things, it's not going to pop up. And that's why this dimension drawing isn't the greatest. So I literally extruded 0.001 of an inch. This way it comes up in the dimension drawing. So now we're going to manually dimension this, and we're not going to use auto dimension. We're going to do this the proper way. I'm putting air quotes. You can't see that, but I am doing air quotes. Same way as you did the other dimension. You click drawing, you click dimension, you click manual, and you also set your views. It starts off with the front view. You click projected view, as you will see. Once you click projected view you click the one that you want to project the view off of. You drag it up to the top. That will show you the top view. You do this for the right view, and then you also do this for the isometric view. I was told and taught to do it this way. There might be another way to do it, but this is the way that I was taught. So I'm going to teach you the way that I was taught. If there's another way that you like better, that you find from a different creator, please use that. I'm all about making sure whatever works for you works for you. That is my style as an educator. But now I'm going to show you how to actually dimension. So to dimension in Fusion, you are going to click where it says dimension. It is that line with like the sun in between it, or like a sunrise in between it, I guess is how you describe it. And what you're going to do is basically click whatever 2 lines you want to dimension, and it's going to give you the value of those lines. You're going to do this each time you dimension something. Now, one thing that I caution you is don't over dimension, and that's basically where you dimension the same thing twice. So you're going to see me actually kind of do it and then fix my mistake. So I'm going to dimension this next line, right? And it's going to give me the same exact value because I dimensioned the same thing as I did above, right? And what I do in this case is I actually delete it. You see me delete it right there. And now I'm going to go back, click dimension again, click the next aspect that I want to dimension. I click how far I want it out. It gives me my 2 inches. I drag it out as you see me do it because I'm like, I think I want it far out. That's based on preference. The lines will stay connected. And then you're going to see me dimension you're going to see me dimension that center of the circle of where it is, and then the radius, or the diameter of the circle. I'm so used to calling it radius because I always learned the formula for a circle, or the formula for the circumference of a circle was pi diameter, and the area of a circle is 2 pi r squared. That's just me being a nerd and going on a tangent. Anyways, so you see me dimension the line of how far up the center of the circle is, and then you're going to see me do it again, but for how far to the left the center of the circle is from that bottom right hand corner. And you're also going to see me actually do the diameter of the circle, and this is kind of where I struggle of how to find the diameter, not how to find the diameter of the circle, of how to measure or get the measurement for the diameter of the circle. Fusion will kind of yell at you in its own way to be like, this isn't right, this isn't right. And I hate to say this, but with Fusion, you do have to mess around and kind of find out for how to do it yourself. I have dimensioned things in Fusion before, but prior to doing this video, it's been a rather long time, and it was like 2 months prior to me doing this the last time I did it. So it is definitely a little bit trickier. I definitely do like the auto function a little bit better, but that's just me. And technically that's not the best way to do it, so yeah. But anyways, you see me get the diameter, and I want to make that diameter symbol clear, because if someone else were to read it, they would have to see that it says diameter. So I get it to a spot where I want it to be clear, and then, yeah. And I do this, the same exact thing basically for the top part of the drawing, because that top part of the drawing has the same situation where there's a circle and it's there, you have to mark where the center is. So, and then the diameter, because the diameter of a circle does run through its center, which is why it's really important in dimensioning to mark where the center of a circle is and the diameter so you can see how long it is. So, yeah. To be totally candid, I forgot to show you how to dimension this tiny circle, but it's the same exact way as doing it as the previous circle. I just forgot to screen record it and forgot to show you, because I screen recorded that clip at like 6 in the morning, right before I was leaving for work. So, yeah. That's the video. Bye. I hope you have a great day. And thank you for watching. I hope you have a great life too if you don't watch any of my other videos. Bye. Have a good one.